today I would love to focus on talking a bit about three ways that you can protect your energy in the way the world is right now. And I'm hiding in my room right now, hence the different background here. I'm hiding in my room. I'm on my bed, close my door. My kids are playing in the garage, which is right in back of my desk where I normally sit, and all they're doing is arguing, which is really joyous. So I'm kind of over listening to it, and obviously I'm sure you didn't want to listen to it either, because I'm sure your kids argue enough with you. So it's interesting because that leads to talking a little bit about energy and kind of what I wanted to talk about today. 3 ways that we can protect our energy. And where this is stemming from and where this is coming from is our energy is everywhere. From the bed I'm sitting on, to the picture behind me, to my kids, to their actual argument, to the words that we say, to the social media that we watch, to the TV, to, our neighbors, to everything and anything going on in this world. It's all energy. And what happens is when there's arguing going on around you, whether it be in your home, like your children, or on social media, people arguing back and forth. We just went through the election. There's obviously a lot of arguing there, a lot of frenetic energy, right? Social media, all that stuff, right? When that's all going on around you, even though it's not you yourself, the energy itself is affecting you, right? So the energy all around you affects you in some way, shape, or form. And so sometimes, I don't know if this ever happens to you, but sometimes you're just feeling like irritated or anxious or overwhelmed, but like you really can't pinpoint and say like there's a reason for it, like nothing that you necessarily did or things that specifically happened to you, but you're just feeling like off. That can be all of the other energy going on around you. So how do you control that? So like right now, I started yelling at my kids and like, talking to them and stuff, but you know what? They've got to figure it out on their own. So 3 things that we can do, and there's obviously so much more that we can do too, but 3 ways that we can protect ourselves from all of that energy that is not actually ours, but that we're absorbing and being affected by. First thing is just acknowledging that, right? Number 1 is acknowledging the fact that all of the energy around us can affect us and does affect us. So it does affect you. You can say, what is going on in this world around me, from the election, from anything like that. It's like acknowledging it and witnessing it, and just, I guess first is just coming to that realization that you are affected by all of this stuff. You don't have control over that. However, you do have control over how you react to that, right? So, all this stuff is going on around us. We've got to just kind of know that we are affected by these things and make the choice of how you are going to react or not react, right? So knowing that, and so for me right now is making that choice to separate myself. So number 1, separate yourself from that energy. In a perfect world, you'd just be able to shut it off, right? It obviously doesn't happen that way, right? When I'm home, my kids are arguing. I'm not able to just turn it off, right? But like for the moment, before I get too annoyed or overwhelmed or anxious, I'm just separating myself from that energy. So I came into my room, and just separated myself from that. Okay, so I acknowledged it. I acknowledged that that was going on, that it was affecting my energy, even though it's not me, but it was affecting me. And then I'm separating myself from that. Okay, then, I mean, there's so many things. I feel like it's hard for me to just come up with three, right? But that's really the first thing, is just, I guess it's kind of two in one, right? Acknowledging it, acknowledging the energy. So taking a moment. So when you are in that moment of, I don't know what it is that's affecting me, I just feel super overwhelmed. Taking a moment. The first step of it is just taking a moment to feel the feelings, acknowledge the feelings, right? Determine, are they your feelings, or is it what is going on around you? So that's number one. Feel the feelings, determine if they are your feelings, something going on with you, or if it is just energy that you are getting from the outside world. Okay? Number two, so like that's the first piece. That's not how to necessarily protect yourself, but that's how to know. That's how to like tune in. It's like just connect with yourself and tune in. Is this your energy, or is this the energy that's going on around you? So to protect yourself from the energy going on all around you, number one would be to separate yourself from it as much as you can. So from a social media standpoint, it would be get off social media. That would be one thing. Or block or unfollow people who are showing the negative, like who are you're absorbing the negative energies of. Or seeking out positive energies, right? So, social media, we can protect ourselves from that. That's a choice. It's a choice to be on it. It's a choice to be watching this right now, right? If I am affecting your energy in a negative way, then I would say, shut me off, right? Unfollow me. I'm hoping that's not the case. But so you can do two things there. Like you can unfollow, you can just get off of it altogether. You can unfollow any negative energies, and you can also seek out positive energies there, right? So, and then if it's something in person, right? Like my kids arguing, I separated myself by coming out into the other room. I also could sit in like a meditation. I could do a breath, some way to like disconnect from their issue, because their issue is really not mine. It's my choice how I am allowing their argument to affect me. Easier said than done. I realize this. But realizing that it is a choice, right? So you can separate yourself from that. So that's number one. Number two is setting the intention before you kind of go out into the world, or before you get onto social media, that this is going to be a positive, high vibe experience. You are not going to allow any negativity to come into your space. You could take that, setting the intentions, you could take that a little bit of a step further. And I like to do what I call cloak. So I imagine this gorgeous cloak covering my body and covering my energy, so that I'm only allowing anyone that I desire to come into that energy. So this cloak is protecting my energy and protecting that light from being affected by that outside. This is super crucial and huge, like going into a grocery store, going shopping, going on social media. So even though you're not there in person, so it's like really number two is setting that intention that any energies out there are only going to affect you in a positive way. You are only going to allow in love and light in which you desire, and repel any negative energies from getting in. And like I said, you can take that a step further by doing a cloak. Some people I know have used like shields, or like a bubble around you to protect. I like to do the cloak because I just feel like that's cool for me. So you find whatever way, but it's setting that intention, and it's part of setting that intention that you are protected. Then number three, another way to protect your energy is what I call cutting cords. Okay, so this is after you've had an exchange, like when you're out of your home, if you're ever out of your home, before you come back into your home, cutting cords, which is basically the energetic connection between you and another person or another energy. Doesn't even necessarily have to be a person, right? And there's like almost like you can picture a cord being connected from like your heart chakra to your heart to theirs, right? And connecting your energies. So, and you do not have to be in person with someone to receive, to have that energetic connection. So what happens is when you're cutting the cords, cutting the energetic cords, you are, and you do this with intention that you're sending back the energies to them with love and light, and you're receiving your energy back to you. What that is doing is just bringing your energy back to a whole. Your energy back to you, everyone else's energy back to them, and other things back to them. So it makes you whole. It's not necessarily a negative thing, right? Like I cut cords with my own family members, with my kids, with my clients, with anything and everyone. And you can also do this. Again, you don't have to be in person. This is any energetic exchange. So again, and I keep going back to social media because that's huge for me when I feel drained, is a lot of the social media stuff. So again, it's like taking the time. You can look up cord cutting or message me if you have more questions on how to do cord cutting or how to do cloaking. Let me know. Ultimately, what it is you're just setting the intention that your energy is coming back to you and their energy is going back to them. And you can do this in your mind. You can do this actually like imagining cutting a cord. You can call in your angels or your guides or God or whoever you'd like to help you with that. There's so many different ways to do it. So there are definitely so many other ways to help protect your energy. Those are just 3 ways. First off, just acknowledging that you're feeling out of whack and figuring out if it's your energy or theirs, okay? Or like someone else's or someone or something else's energy, right? But then 3 ways to protect is just number 1, separate yourself from it in whatever way, shape, or form you can do that. Number 2, setting the intention that before it happens, right? Before you go out into the world or before you get onto social media, setting the intention that you're only going to allow in, the positive, high vibe, love and light energy that you desire. And then number 3 is cutting cords, or separating your energy from their energy after the fact, after you've had some type of an exchange. Those are 3 ways to just kind of, bring your energy back to you so you feel whole and you're not absorbing all of that negative energy out there. Now, is it perfect? Do I do this all the time, every exchange? No. But I should, right? But we're human. We're on this planet. We're human. We don't always think of these things, right? But, especially when I'm feeling like extra super drained, right? I'm like, no wonder why, because I have not been setting my intentions. I've not been cloaking. I've not been cutting my cords. And I realize that these things have actually affected me. Or I've not separated, or I've allowed myself and I've chosen to be a part of that negative energy. Like I've chosen to argue with my kids and stuff rather than choosing to walk away and let them handle it because that's theirs. Those are just a few ways that you can protect your energy. I will share more. There's so many more different things that you can do. You choose what resonates with you, but just remember that, when you're feeling funky and you're feeling there, remember first to just tune in to you, your intuition, your gut, your heart, and determine, first of all, feel the feelings, feel them. And when you're feeling them, don't push them down. That's the last thing you want to do is push them down and not feel it. Feel those feelings. And then when you're feeling them, be like, is that actually my feelings? Because sometimes you just don't know where this is coming from. And it's totally normal because we are all energetically connected. Those feelings that you're feeling and the things that are going through you that overwhelm, whatever's going on, may not actually be you. It may be you absorbing the energy of your surroundings and what is going on in this world. So by separating yourself from some of that, by cloaking yourself and setting intentions, and cord cutting and like disconnecting after the fact, those will really help, especially when you're feeling like extra overwhelmed and don't know why. Kelly, so I could be feeling my husband's feeling. Absolutely, Kelly. Absolutely. So what is really interesting about energy, right? And that people just don't really realize or talk about or understand. And like, I don't always understand it, right? Like, energy is everywhere, in everything, right? And the way that people kind of handle or deal with or feel, the way people feel the energy is different. And then what happens is when you're, especially Kelly, like you've been doing like so much healing for yourself and you've been doing all of these things and you're really opening up like spiritually, mentally, emotionally, like all of that, right? A lot of times what happens is the more open you are and the more healing that you're doing on you, it actually opens you up to energies all around you, right? Because you're more open. If you're working on your chakras and you're clearing energies, right? It actually opens you up. So you've actually got to spend more time or be more intentional and thoughtful with what you are doing to protect that energy. And you don't realize it. And like, this has probably happened all the time, but you don't realize it when you're, frazzled all the time. You don't really realize it. And the more open you are, the more healing you've done, you're realizing, you start to realize like, hey, I don't even know why I'm feeling this way because this, that, or the other thing. Like the more in tune with yourself, you start realizing that I don't know why I'm feeling that way. Well, that very much can be someone else. That happens when we're together. Yeah. I mean, and so like for my kids, right? I was saying at the beginning of this, I had to escape to my bedroom because they're in my garage because they didn't feel like playing in the snow, but I desired them to get out of the house. So I said, why don't you guys play some lacrosse, like do some practicing, get in the garage. I'll move the the throat thing. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Kelly, you're right. Every time we're together. So, do you have throat chakra stuff or is it just me? But hey, that's another thing though with energy, right? I could be feeling your energy, right? It's interesting, but like I could succumb to like the kids. Like I was like in a great mood and I was like getting all this stuff done. I was being super proactive and working on my biz and having fun. And then they started arguing and I immediately was like irritated, overwhelmed, annoyed, like the whole thing. Right. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's not my energy. Like I was all good. And then they started arguing and then I started to feel that. Right. Sometimes it's the house. Like sometimes I'm like, all right, get my Palo Santo and my sage. And I like douche the house with that stuff. Sometimes we just kind of, all three of us need that. And the whole house has got to get kind of cleansed, right? Which also helps with the energy. And I usually have to cleanse and do that more often when I'm not protecting my energy in the first place and I'm not cloaking and I'm not cord cutting and I'm not being as mindful. And like the more I'm on social media and not being as intentional when I'm on it. So like the more scrolling that's happening and the more just checking out random people and the more I'm just like opening myself up to all these energies that I actually do not desire to have when I'm really being intentional, that can open up things. So then that can get me in like kind of a mood, right? But that wasn't me. That was like, why did I open myself up to that? Then all these energies are coming and seeping in because I'm like opening myself up to it. So I've got to be very intentional with my energy and how the energies around me are affecting me. And believe me, this is like a full-time job. Okay, so, none of us are perfect. Nobody is. These are just ways, first of all, for you to realize that it may not be you. Those feelings and that overwhelm may not actually be you, but we've got to just spend a few moments to connect and see if it is, right? And then we've got to just be intentional with our energy. There's so much. I mean, energy is just, I could talk about energy all day long, and just the impact and the effect and how we can protect ourselves and how we can lift ourselves up and all these things. And I realize it's so funny because I could talk about this all day long, and I realize I haven't been sharing as much about it lately, right? And when I'm not as great, when I'm not like walking the walk, right, and maybe not doing these things, like if I'm not, cloaking and cord cutting as much as I'd like, sometimes I feel like, that imposter, right? Like, I'm not doing it, so I shouldn't talk about it. Oh, whatever, right? We're all human. Yes, I am a Reiki master teacher. Yes, I am a coach. Yes, I teach people how to do these things. I teach my kids how to do it. This is something that you can teach your kids, how to protect their energy. That is huge. I mean, they go from one house to another. They go from their dad's house to my house. It's a totally different energy. So I've been talking to them like about cord cutting before they come to my house, just because then it's like, okay, send dad and stepmom's energy back to them, not necessarily in a negative bad way, but like we don't have to have that energy come here, right? And to like cut those cords to protect your energy when we come. Yes, transitions, exactly, Kelly. Like any transitions. And I find that when we're not being intentional during the transitions, it is like argument fest. Like for like the first day that they're back here, it's really interesting because it's just the energy is shifting. So if we're not being intentional with our energy and with how the energies around us are affecting us, that's when these kinds of things can happen. And like I said, it's not something here. We're moms, right? Like we're moms, we're busy, we have so much going on. We don't always think about it 24/7 all the time. And like I said, this could legit be an all day thing to keep ourselves super high vibe, right? But in order to keep our vibrations high, in order to live a multi-dimensional life where we are like feeling high, the highest of highs, and we're able to live in the moment, we have got to be intentional with our energy. I am very interested and mindful of that. Even when they're little, it plays a part with their moods and then ours. Yeah, totally. And it's interesting because I never, before I got into energy work, and like Reiki and all that stuff and like really digging into my own energy, I never really realized the impact of these things, like the transitions, even like the transition from school back home on a day-to-day basis, or from home to school. We set our intentions in the morning before, they're on school vacation now and they only go into school 2 days a week. But like we talk about setting our intentions before we go. How's our day going to go? And just being like really intentional with it. And this is actually getting me thinking of talking with them even more. Like we've talked about cord cutting, we've talked about cloaking and all that. But as they're getting older, they're understanding it a little bit more. And I just really love to introduce these things to them that I learned later in life, to help them protect their energy and then hopefully help us with these transitions. Because, especially right now, there's like so many transitions. There's, so much like overload on our brains. Like we're having to think about everything. We're not sure what's going on. There's so many changes. 1 minute we can be in school, the next minute we're in quarantine. because somebody tested positive, and then, okay, we can go back to school, but now we're going to go 2 days a week. Oh, well, now we might go full time, but, you know, it's like, oh my God, decision fatigue is going on, like pandemic fatigue, they're saying, like people that are just overwhelmed and emotional. Like, it makes total sense because the energy, it all comes back to energy. The energy is all over the place, right? Nobody talks about that. If only I knew not to ask a million questions after school and to wait, LOL. Girl, I know. And I'm so bad about that too. Like, it's like I know that, but in the moment I still want to be like, how was school? What'd you do? Like, you know, did you have fun? What did you do? And like, I still will ask those questions. I'm like, dude, just give them a moment. And even the transitioning to bedtime, the transition of waking up, like all of that, it's like giving them, as they're getting older, I'm realizing that they really need their space, right? But I'm a talker, as you can tell. And my kids aren't always, they're not as chatty as me. They can be when they are in the moment. But they're not quite as chatty, so they actually desire more downtime than I do. Right, Joseph? Do you love when I ask 20 questions?
No. You're way too chit-chatty.
I'm way too chit-chatty, says Joseph.
You're like chit-chitty, chit-chat-chat.
Yeah, I am. And you are filthy. Why don't you get off my bed because you're filthy from the garage. So on that note, think about your energy, ways to protect it. If you have more questions, let me know. I will share more. I'm typing up a blog today that's going to go over more details of like different ways that you can protect your energy with all this stuff going on. So I will send that out soon, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day.